shall faithfully demean myself
as Governor of the State of Missouri.
as Governor of the State of Missouri.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Welcome to In Focus Missouri. I'm Lori Chung. This is a new weekly public affairs show where we explore the issues that impact Missourians. Each week, we'll bring you in-depth, balanced discussions with a diverse group of newsmakers, from elected officials to expert analysts and community leaders. I'm here in the state capitol with our very first guest, Governor Mike Kehoe. Sworn into office on January 13th, Kehoe quickly made good on a promise to back law enforcement. Shortly after stepping off that stage, the governor signed 6 executive orders into law, all aimed at crime and immigration.
Securing Missouri's future begins with public safety. Too many Missourians don't feel safe, and too many Missourians aren't safe. When people are afraid for their lives and their family, they cannot be productive.
Mike Kehoe is the first lieutenant governor to ascend to the state's highest job since 1993. The Republican takes office with a GOP majority in both chambers of the state legislature. Governor Kehoe, thank you so much for taking the time and for welcoming us here into your office. First thing I want to ask you, you walk in here, it's just awe-inspiring. How are you feeling finally being here and shouldering the responsibilities of this office and able to take your plan forward?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always great to connect with folks all around the state through you and other resources. It's still kind of a pinch me moment. I can't hardly believe I'm sitting here doing this interview, much less being inaugurated last week, and it's been a heck of a journey in our life, and one we feel very fortunate, actually very blessed to be a part of.
I walked into this office and it is awe-inspiring. Do you get goosebumps when you walk in here?
Well, you think about other people who have come here before you that have been a part of major policy, been a part of major issues that have happened to the state, and the decisions that have been made in the office, the meetings that have been made here, the history that's been formed here. And that becomes a pretty goosebump moment every time, yes.
I want to talk about the work you hope to do. You have made tackling crime and economic development key priorities in your administration, and you got right to work with those executive orders that you signed right after taking the oath. Talk to me a little bit about those executive orders, how they fit in with your overall plan to tackle crime here in the state.
Well, sure. And by the way, those two issues are very personal to me. I grew up in inner city St. Louis. I know what St. Louis and other urban parts of our state can look like, so crime is really important to me. And then, most of my career I've been a small business person, so economic development, providing opportunities for Missourians is really important to me. That's how my family kind of got out of the situation they were in. We worked our way out of it. But crime is really important to us because, we have these men and ladies in blue who are protecting our communities, who are running in when we're running out. And making sure they have the right resources, not just financial, but also political backing, using the position we have, House members, Senate members from Missouri, elected officials, using their positions to talk to their communities about how important backing the men and ladies who are protecting our community are and doing the right thing for them in those communities. That's something we feel is very important. And we've said it time and time again, we want it easier in Missouri to be a cop than to be a criminal. And unfortunately, society has changed that a little bit. We want to get back to the basics of keeping safe communities, safe neighborhoods, and providing opportunities.
And how will you judge that?
Well, that's a great question because we have a lot of leaders from around the state saying, hey, we have crime under control, we have this, we're hitting these metrics. And by the way, some of those communities are doing a really good job. But the real metric to me is, will businesses invest in that community? Will a business come through and say, hey, I'm comfortable enough where you have the safety of your community in a good place, and I'm going to come expand my business or move my business? The real barometer to me is investment. If we have business entrepreneurs that are willing to put capital investment, capital at risk in those communities to invest and build businesses there, then we're on the right track.
Okay. President Trump has made immigration a core talking point, a key priority of his administration. One of your executive orders actually provides training for local and state officers to assist in tracking down immigrants who aren't here legally. Can you talk about how you envision that partnership working?
Yeah, illegal immigration has plagued our country for the last 4 years. I believe it's been the failed administration that we had before. I know Donald Trump knows how to stop immigration, or at least slow it down. And we've seen some immediate actions from him just here recently with his inauguration. I've been to the border twice with our National Guard and once with our highway patrolmen. And being able to provide the training that our law enforcement officials need, give them the tools they need to detain these illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants when they find them, is very important not only to us but to them. Because we encounter, the problem with immigration, especially people who are here illegally, there's not like a database of who they are and where they are. So what most likely happens is law enforcement may encounter them within their daily activity. And when they do, we want to make sure they have the tools to do the right thing for Missourians.
Because one of those executive orders also provides a framework to track people.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about, not too long ago, the country, Missouri included, was in this period of calling for police reform, where people are concerned about the role of police in some communities, particularly communities of color. As governor, how do you balance the concerns of those who hear tough on crime policing strategies or policies and worry about whether that will come at the expense of civil rights, particularly when you're talking about tracking people down?
Well, again, I'm from inner city St. Louis, so I grew up in the area where sometimes you were a little bit more concerned with what the policemen, men or women, were going to do when you were detained. And so I understand there's a certain amount of fear in some areas of our state. The police departments themselves really want to do a better job of easing those fears, getting back to things, to the basics, community policing. Making sure we have the right personnel so that we can not only show up in a neighborhood when there's a problem, but when we're there more constant, when we're a part of the neighborhood, we're a part of the fabric. We need young people from all walks of life, both rural and urban, to be more comfortable about being around law enforcement officers. And the law enforcement community wants to purge the folks who are the bad actors within their community as well as anybody else. So working together, I think we can get to that right harmony that gets back to that community policing, that gets people, young kids, when they see a man or woman in a uniform, they're in awe of that person because they know they're around them, they trust them. There's a way to balance that, and I believe we can get there.
We'll have more of my one-on-one interview with Governor Mike Kehoe after a quick break. He campaigned on a promise to cut taxes. Hear what he has to say about providing some financial relief to Missourians. That's coming up.
Growing up, no one would have looked at me and said, one day, that kid is going to be sworn in by Senator Roy Blunt as the 58th governor of the state of Missouri.
Welcome back. The governor grew up in North St. Louis City, raised by a single mom who he says taught him the value of working hard. We talk more about his childhood, his promise to cut taxes and create jobs as my one-on-one interview with Governor Mike Kehoe continues. Governor, I want to shift the focus now to taxes. You have talked about lowering taxes for Missourians. Everywhere you go, costs are up. People can't afford the basic goods that they need for life. How do you hope to accomplish that? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I mean, people work hard in Missouri. I believe we have some of the hardest working, best work ethic people in the United States. And letting them keep more of the money they earn is essential to our economy. I've always said that Missourians are a lot smarter than bureaucrats. They can spend their money better than any elected official can any day of the week. And providing that environment, that opportunity for them to not only retain more of their money, but put it back into the market is really important to our economic success. And if we want to compete with other states in the world of economic development and trying to be that state that people want to come to, we have to have tax policies that will lend to that conversation.
Now, taxes, that's one part of it. Stable jobs, that's another, and having a strong workforce, that's another part of it. You're a business owner, you know what it is to be in business and to create jobs. Can you talk to me about what your vision is for creating more jobs for Missourians and really supporting the middle class?
Really, when you talk to an employer, they want to know about 2 or 3 things if they want to expand in Missouri or any state for that matter, or they want to move to Missouri. First is tax policy, as we talked about earlier. Second is regulatory reform. What government regulations might prohibit them from investing in this state and growing in this state? We want to make sure we do a really good job on that. And then the third piece is the workforce piece, which is what do we have a trained workforce for that that company, whether it's a retail sales company, whether it's a manufacturing company. What is Missouri offering for them in workforce? That's where I think we can have a competitive advantage to all of our other surrounding states. Governor Parson, the previous administration, as well as legislatures in both the House and Senate here in this building, have worked really hard on workforce development, pairing up our educational systems with the end user, the manufacturer, the retail person, the business people who are trying to hire those folks, finding out what skill sets they need from our young men and women. And it's a win-win, because if we train these young men and women for places that we know have job openings, they're going to have an opportunity, and those companies are going to be happy to be able to have those employees come work for them. So workforce is a really important part of economic development.
You talked a few times about your own background coming from the inner city. You are the son of a single mom. You've seen those struggles firsthand. Can you give us a sense of how that shaped you as a human being, and how it's going to shape you as a elected official in the governor's office?
There's no way, based on my background and bringing up, that I should be sitting in front of you today. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends in my old neighborhood didn't make it out of that neighborhood. And so I feel very blessed to be a part of this whole administration and be able to represent Missourians. But what we have to make sure we instill, especially in our inner cities and in rural communities as well, especially in the inner city where there's neighborhoods that they don't have any hope. They don't even know what the word hope means. Certainly if you go to, and I do go back to areas I was from, and start talking to these young kids, this 15-year-old, 12-year-olds, and start talking to them about owning a business or having a family farm or maybe just owning their own vehicle, they don't believe that's even possible. My goal is to help represent those folks, whether from urban or rural, that this is a great state. We have a lot of opportunity here. We had the basics in our life. With my mother, who worked very hard for multiple jobs. Pray harder, work harder. Pray harder, work harder. That was her answer to every situation we ever got in, and it proved out that it worked pretty well.
You know, when I hear you talk, you know, that's a story and a journey that so many people can relate to. You've also talked about bringing people together, regardless of political divide. And we live in an age of deep political divisions. You see people coming together to accomplish some of these goals, and these are big goals. What makes you so hopeful that people can do that?
Through my job as a state senator and then as lieutenant governor, I traveled the state an awful lot. All of the rural counties in our state, all the urban areas of our state. And what you come to find out is people are more alike than you think. Their concerns are more similar than what everybody wants it to be. The social media of the world wants to divide everybody and saying they're in this camp and they're in this camp. But really, Missourians are concerned about the same things. They're concerned about the community, the safety community. They're concerned about, do they have an opportunity, not a gift, but an opportunity to earn a good job going forward? Can they support their family? These are the things that Missourians, no matter what walk of life they're from, are wanting to know and have the common bond that makes us Missouri. And I really believe that we are one Missouri, and bringing those people together to move us forward is my goal.
Moving forward on education, you've talked about expanding school choice. Tell me a little bit about your thinking on that and how that would be accomplished.
Well, I'm not sure that somebody should have to get the education based on the zip code that they were born into. We have some underperforming school districts in the state, and we want to try to give them a hand up, not a hand out, to get into a better place. We have some school districts in the state that are rock stars that do a fantastic job. Trying to make sure that we offer the opportunity. We keep all these adults getting these conversations about education. Guess who they forget? They forget about the child. And I want to remember the child. We need to make sure they have that opportunity. We make sure if the district that they were born into is not performing and not able to take care of them, to give them an opportunity when they get finished, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to go to a district that does. That competition will rise all those boats in that same harbor. This is kind of a cool creation for people to be able to come through as another part of our capital.
We'll have more of my one-on-one interview with Governor Kehoe ahead. During my time at the Capitol building, the governor was gracious enough to also give me a tour. The impressive structure is actually the third Capitol building to be constructed. The first two were destroyed by fires back in the 1800s. This current structure took several years to build and was completed in 1917. At the top of the building stands a bronze figure of Ceres, the goddess of grain, representative of the state's agriculture industry. The building is listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
So the Third floor is where the House and Senate chambers are on. Fourth floor is kind of offices and the tops of the chambers. But the fifth floor is a whispering gallery, which is really cool.
More of my one-on-one interview coming up after the break, where the governor sounds off on one of the state's largest industries. That's coming up.
I really never thought I'd be here in the Hall of Governors, but again, this was created to really tell the history. You know, we have tens of thousands of school kids that come through this building every spring, and the history of the governors and what they went through were never really available to the public, much less to these young kids. And so not only do we have the portraits of all the governors assembled finally in one spot for the first time, but we have modern technology in that there's a QR code. So if you want to learn more about this governor, you can just scan that. Unbeknownst to me, overnight when I was inaugurated, they changed this board from Governor Parson and Teresa Parson to my wife and I, and this highlighted some of the things that we've worked on.
Welcome back to In Focus, Missouri. We have been talking with the state's new governor, Mike Kehoe. We wanted to hear what he had to say about one of the state's largest industries, which he knows something about. Governor Kehoe, I want to talk about agriculture now. It's a more than $93 billion industry here in Missouri. You yourself, you have a cattle farm, 700 acres. So you know firsthand what farmers need, what their challenges are, what they're up against. How do you hope to support the ag industry?
Well, my wife Claudia and I are first generation farmers, so I've been in the cow-calf business about 40 years, and we've learned more about life from what it takes to be an agricultural producer probably than any other experience I've had since I've been on the face of this earth. But Missouri farmers and ranchers are very smart people. And so the number one thing is we have to make sure government's not in their life trying to tell them what to do every day. They're pretty smart, they're hardworking, they're resilient, they understand how to adapt with changes and overcome problems. So we want to make sure we create an environment that allows those farm and ranch families to continue to grow and prove, because we do feed and clothe the world here in Missouri. It is our number one industry at $93 billion impact on our state's economy. We're number two in the United States at 87,000 family-owned farms. So we need to let those farmers and ranchers do what they do best, and then create an environment where we produce value added to our ag industry. We have a certain number of acres, production acres here in Missouri. We're not going to expand the borders of our state. We need to learn with technology and with innovative methods through our research universities, how do we get more out of each of those acres? And I believe Missouri's farmers and ranchers and the support community around us, our ag partners, will be able to help us to do that.
I think about climate change and how that could possibly affect people who make their living in farming. You know, we've seen climate impacts from coast to coast and everywhere in between. When you think about the United States Environmental Protection Agency, says Missouri's weather has warmed over the last century. So it's happening here in the state. It's affecting everyone. How is your administration looking at this, and how do you hope to support not just farmers, but all Missourians deal with this?
Well, you know, we have had 2 years of drought here in Missouri. As a cattle producer, I can tell you it was tough to make it through there. But again, I go back to what the ag community knows how to do. They know how to adapt. They know how to overcome. And I believe our farmers and ranchers will understand how to do that. We have to figure it out. This is not an option like, how do we do better? This is, we must do better, because world food demand is going to double in the next 30 years. So it's taken us 2,025 years to learn how to produce the amount of food that we do today. We're going to have to double that in 30 years. So we don't really have a choice in the ag community of what maybe can we do and think about it. We've got to put it in action and start producing more.
I know you've been around the state talking to farmers, talking to people in the industry. What are their concerns that you're hearing?
Well, their concerns, again, is a government overreach, that all of a sudden some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., or maybe in Missouri, all of a sudden imposes something on them that doesn't make sense, that ties their hands and inhibits their opportunity to produce more of that food. So we need to make sure that we let them farm responsibly and make sure they're good caretakers to our environment, but let them do what they do best.
There's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety around the economy, around crime, around so many issues. What would be your parting words to Missourians watching this about this administration and how you hope to take the state forward in a positive way?
Well, we need leadership at all levels of government, whether that's your city council, a state representative, senator, or statewide elected officials, holding those accountable. We need to make sure those people lead and understand and have the pulse of what, in our case, what Missourians need and what they don't need help with. We believe that if you can get that out there and create that common bond with all Missourians, that we really are a state that will take care of each other. We will work together with each other and we will produce the right results. And we need to make sure they understand that that is my vision. I'm that light that wants to shine and take them through that tunnel and bring them out on the other side to a better place.
Wonderful. Governor, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us and laying out your vision for Missouri. I want to tell you congratulations and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Of course. Well, we've enjoyed our time here at the state capitol in Missouri, talking with Governor Mike Kehoe, and we certainly thank him for his time. And we thank you for watching. I'm Lori Chung. Have a good day.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.